The Atlanta Braves have been a powerhouse of the 2020s decade, making the playoffs every single year and having one of the most loaded rosters in baseball for all of them. They won 104 and 101 games in 2023 and 2022 respectively, but unfortunately last season, two of their biggest stars in Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider both missed a majority of the season. Fortunately, they bring back that stacked lineup, some great starting pitchers, a very good back end of the bullpen, and they'll get Acuña and Strider back at some point this season. The Braves won 89 games and were first round exits last year. Can they improve on that in 2025? Let's get into a deep dive on the 2025 Atlanta Braves organization. We'll get into some team ranks to start it off here. These are all completely objective. My rankings formula are going to be in the description of this video, and they came in with the 4th ranked Major League roster last season, even though they had those injuries. Their lineup, that's always been a strength of the team, took a bit of a step back last year and was about league average, but their rotation and bullpen were both ranked 2nd in baseball. A league average defense as well culminated in them having the 4th ranked roster in baseball. Unfortunately, their farm system is a bit of a mixed bag right now. They have the best pitchers in all of the minor leagues in their system in terms of quality and depth, but their minor league hitters are definitely a step back in a couple areas, but they will have one rookie starting on opening day at the catcher spot. Brian Snitker is the manager of this club, and this will be his 11th year in Atlanta, a very successful run here, including a World Series championship, and then Alex Anthopoulos, the president of baseball operations, over from Toronto a few years ago, and has really done a good job creating this roster, making a lot of very solid roster decisions, and he's made the playoffs every single year that he's been the president of baseball operations for this organization. Last season, I mentioned 89 and 73, 2nd in the National League East and 5th in the National League. They did spend a lot of money last year, $232 million. They're a team that's not afraid to do it. This year, projected to be 93 and 69. 1st in the National League East and 2nd in the National League. A very top-heavy division with the Braves, Phillies, and Mets all clumped together with those records at the top. Their playoff odds this year are 89.3%. They do still have 3 top 100 picks at 22, 60, and 96. Their top contracts, Austin Riley, the biggest here at $21.2 million, Matt Olson next at $21 million, and then Chris Sale finally with $19 million average annual salary. Notice, these are all extensions as well for the Braves. So they've done an incredible job at bringing in talent, not on big-time free agent signings, but through their organization in different ways, and then finding a way to extend them through their peak years. A great job by Alex Anthopoulos. Guys like Acuña and Ozzie Albies have also been extended here. They last made the playoffs last season, being a wild card team and the last team in after they split a doubleheader with the Mets on the last day of the season to keep out the Arizona Diamondbacks. Their park factor is 100. This is just a number that shows how much of a pitcher's or a hitter's park that you play in. 100 is league average, and that's what it is in Atlanta. They're 12th in baseball in terms of hitters' parks. In terms of organization success, not great for the Braves. The Gwinnett Stripers 72 and 78, Mississippi Braves last year 63 and 73, Rome Emperors in high A right at 500, and the Augusta Green Jackets 49 and 80 last season. A lot of names in and out for the Braves from last year. We'll start with the offseason additions, and a pretty big one here in Jurickson Profar, 3 years, $42 million, projected 1.7 WAR next year. He'll be your everyday left fielder here in Atlanta, a great season with San Diego last year, and then a bunch of guys that aren't projected very much WAR for this roster. Alex Verdugo just recently brought in on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. I don't think he's going to make the opening day roster, but he'll most likely contribute to this team a decent amount. 3 bullpen guys here in Jose Suarez, Hector Neris, and Enyel De Los Santos, all projected to make the opening day roster and contribute to the team. Jose Suarez, just a very recent trade. Ian Anderson over to the Angels. And Neris and De Los Santos here on 1-year deals. Bryan De La Cruz, a 1-year, $860,000 deal, projected 0.1 WAR. He'll be on the bench for this team. Not a very good season for him last year. In terms of losses, there were definitely a lot. The big one here, Max Fried, 3.4 WAR last year for the Braves, going over to the Yankees. And he's been nails here in Atlanta the past few seasons. Travis d'Arnaud and Jorge Soler both separately going over to the Angels. Soler on a trade, d'Arnaud in free agency. Charlie Morton over to Baltimore on a 1-year deal. Gio Urshela to the Athletics. Whit Merrifield did a little bit for this team last year, but it's a free agent now. Guessing he won't be back with this team. And then John Brebbia over to Detroit, .1 WAR last season. Before I get into this lineup, I'll go over weighted runs created plus. Think about it as a general offensive stat that measures how productive you were as a hitter. League average for that stat is 100. Everything above or below that number is going to be the percent better or worse that you were offensively compared to a league average player. So for example, Jurickson Profar is projected to be 12% better than a league average hitter, and we'll get started there. Next year, 15 homers and 7 stolen bases on the projections, just under 2 WAR. He went gangbusters at the plate last year after a really tough 2023 season. A few guys here in this Braves lineup that did have pretty tough seasons for them personally, but I do expect a lot of them to get back to normal, and the projections do as well. Austin Riley and Matt Olson, two of them here, both projected to be 29% better than league average, 33 and 34 homers. Riley, a very good defender at third base, projected 4.6 WAR, Olson 3.3. Marcell Ozuna, an incredible season last year, projected to take a bit of a step back, 23% better than league average, and 33 homers for him. Michael Harris II, projected to be 25% better than league average next year, 23 homers and 18 stolen bases, just under 5 WAR. And then Ozzie Albies, another tough season for him last year, 10% better than league average on the projections, 23 homers, 12 steals, 3.2 WAR for him. Notice, Riley, Olson, Ozuna, Harris, and Albies all projected to be top 10 in their position at projected WAR this year. Drake Baldwin, rookie catcher, likely going to start opening day with Sean Murphy being out. Orlando Arcia, more of a defensive first shortstop, had tough years offensively the past couple years. And then Jared Kelenic will hold the role until Ronald Acuna can get back. On the bench, Chadwick Tromp, Nick Allen, Bryan De La Cruz, and Eli White. None of them projected substantial WAR. A very good rotation here for the Atlanta Braves. I'll talk about Spencer Strider first. Currently been throwing in spring training. Sounds like he's going to go back and do a bit of an extended spring training to ramp himself up for the season. He'll be joining the team sooner rather than later. But we'll go into Chris Sale here, the National League Cy Young winner from last season. Looks like he's back and ready after an injury late season last year. 182 innings pitched, 3.3 ERA, just under 5 WAR on the projections for him. Reynaldo Lopez, starter turned reliever turned starter, had a great season for Atlanta last year. Spencer Schwellenbach, you've definitely heard about him in the breakout candidates for this season. A great young pitcher that has some really good stuff. I'm excited to get into him this year. Grant Holmes, a really interesting one, guy that came out of the bullpen a majority last year, but gonna start this year it sounds like. And then AJ Smith-Schawver just looked, he did make the opening day rotation, projected a 4.19 ERA and .7 WAR. Some other contributors to this rotation are going to be Bryce Elder, Dylan Dodd, and Hurston Waldrep. A very good closer in this Braves bullpen, and Raisel Iglesias, really solid numbers for him last year, projected a 3.14 ERA and a 27.6% K rate. 3 lefties in this bullpen, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, and Jose Suarez. Bummer and Lee both very good pitchers. Suarez really did have a struggle last season, but the Braves liked him enough to bring him in from the Angels. Pierce Johnson here to be a high leverage guy out of this bullpen, just about 28% strikeout rate. He does have a bit of a walk issue. That number is going to be a bit high. Hector Neris and Eniel De Los Santos, I mentioned them, free agent pickups brought in to help supplement this bullpen. And then Daysbel Hernandez, big time strikeout guy that will walk a guy here or there. A bunch of guys in this bullpen projected under a 4 ERA. Should be a pretty solid point for this team, but I think the biggest question mark out of these 3 units. That'll bring us into a breakdown on these position players, and I'll go over some of the numbers really quickly. No StatCast metrics for Drake Baldwin, but for every major league player, there's going to be the Baseball Savant page on here. That's going to give you some hard hit metrics, some plate discipline metrics, expected stats, and then defensive and base running metrics. The percentile ranks are going to be the run values by Baseball Savant. That'll compare them to the rest of the league in terms of their offensive, base running, and defensive run values. Weighted runs created plus, remember, offensive statistic that measures all things you do on offense. League average for that is 100. And then WOBA stands for weighted on base average. Think about it as a way to measure how you get on base. Everything is weighed in this calculation, meaning a homer is weighed more than a triple, which is weighed more than a double, etc. League average for that stat is going to be 310. We'll get into Drake Baldwin here, gonna be starting as the catcher on opening day. Sean Murphy currently down with an injury. He's gonna miss a decent amount of time. Between AA and AAA last season, very good stats for him. 19% better than league average, 16 homers in 124 games. Hits both left-handers and right-handers pretty evenly. Drafted in the 3rd round by the Atlanta Braves. Shout out to Madison, Wisconsin, where he went to high school. About average as a defender, not a big-time catcher in terms of the defensive metrics, but a guy that can could really hit the ball. Big time offense performance over every single year of his minor league career. Last season in AA and AAA led qualified Braves minor league hitters with a .423 slugging percentage. And I mentioned he had 16 homers last year. Very good walk rates in the minor leagues for Drake Baldwin. Really worked his way up this Braves farm system, and I think he'll have a really solid season as the starting catcher until Sean Murphy gets back. Really excited to see what Drake Baldwin can do as a rookie this season. Gonna let you in on a little hint. I'm definitely gonna be putting some money down for him to win Rookie of the Year this year. Not very often do you get to see a catcher start every day on opening day as a rookie. Really excited for Drake Baldwin this season. So Sean Murphy will be the primary catcher when he comes back from injury. Cracked his rib on February 28th. Sounds like he's doing some limited baseball activity right now, but will miss a bit of time to start the season. Didn't get much of a spring training at all. For Murphy last season, it was a pretty tough year. Was coming back from an injury that he had very early in the season and could never really get it going offensively. I will say for Murphy, though, even in a down year offensively, still pretty good on the defensive side, just about 70th percentile in defense, but he was 22% worse than league average as a hitter. But look at the WAR per 162 from him, 5.4 wins above replacement for the last 3 seasons by Sean Murphy. A guy who's been very valuable. Last year took pretty big steps back in some of the plate discipline areas, wasn't hitting the ball as hard and was hitting the ball on the ground a lot more as well. A 2023 season for Murphy where he had an 843 OPS and 21 homers. The hard hit metrics are off the screen for him. 95th percentile in barrel rate. The expected slugging, expected WOBA, and expected batting average are all very good for him. His walk rate still very good, but was a lot better that year as well. The whiff rates and K rates were down. Big time defensive catcher that year as well. 98th percentile in fielding run value and 88th percentile in batting run value. Historically, a very good hitter against left-handed pitching. Last season really struggled against left-handers. A 654 OPS, only got on base 25% of the time. I believe in Sean Murphy to come back and still be that catcher that he has been in the past, that hitter as well. Still only 30 years old. I mentioned will start the season with an injury, but when he comes back, I think I'm going to be excited for what Sean Murphy can do. I think this is one of the better catcher groups in all of baseball, though. So at first base, Matt Olson, kind of a weird year from him, and not as good of a year as he had in 2023, but he was still very solid last year. 162 games. Matt Olson has played 162 each of the last 3 seasons. The hard hit numbers were all very solid for him last year. 29 homers, was striking out a bit more, but a very solid defender at first base. A guy that has 4.1 wins above replacement per 162 the last 3 years. The heir apparent to Freddie Freeman, after the Braves acquired him from the Oakland A's the year after Freeman left in free agency, he went nuts at the plate in 2023. A 993 OPS and 54 homers. All of the barrel rates, hard hit rates, and average exit velocity numbers were up there in the 96 plus percentile in baseball. A guy that's been very good here for Atlanta. The past few seasons, I expect him to get back to a bit of more what we saw in 2023, but maybe not the 54 homers, almost 1 OPS player at first base. Ozzie Albies here at second base, been a Brave for a long time, up in the majors for a while. 3.4 WAR per 162, so another guy who's been very valuable but had a pretty tough season last year offensively. Not going to bring you a ton of value as a defender at second base either. His base running is above average though. 5% worse than league average offensively, 10 homers, just a 307 WOBA, so below average there as well. A much better hitter against left-handed pitching, a guy that has a better right-handed swing historically as a switch hitter, which you usually see the opposite of for most switch hitters. Most of them are better against right-handed pitching, but Albies has a very good swing from the right side. A guy that's not going to strike out very often, even in his down years. An incredible 2023 season at the plate, a 280 average, 33 homers, 13 stolen bases, 849 OPS for him. Solid expected numbers, although not the super hard hitter of the ball, but the strikeout rates are very good for him. Not a guy that's going to walk a ton, not a big on base guy. Definitely a big time bat to ball guy. Ran into a bunch of homers in 2023, was hitting the ball in the air a lot more. His bat speed did go down about a mile an hour last year. All the hard hit rates went down a decent amount. Didn't get a full season out of Albies though, only 6 plate appearances post All-Star break for Ozzie. I'm expecting a bit of a positive regression to the mean for Albies. Over his career, been a much better hitter than this. I expect at least a league average offensive season out of Ozzie Albies. So Austin Riley at third base had one of the weirder years really out of anybody I've seen in this entire series. Offensively, everything was pretty much the same. All of his expected numbers were very good. He was crushing the baseball. Never been a big time walk guy. Struck out a decent amount in his career, but he always hits the ball hard. The numbers just didn't catch up for him last year. He was still 80th percentile in offensive run value, 16% better than league average, but underperformed all of his expected metrics by a pretty wide margin. 5.1 WAR per 162, so another guy been a very valuable player, but a bit of a down season for him last year in terms of his actual stats. Only 110 games, he did miss a decent amount of time with an injury. Another guy here that the Braves have signed long term, not going to bring a ton of value base running or defensively, although I do think he's a bit of a better defender than the metrics gave him last year. The 2 years before last season, an 861 and an 877 OPS, 37 and 38 homers. Looking at the Savant pages, honestly, a lot of the same from him. Even better in some areas for Austin Riley last year. He was hitting the baseball very hard. I don't really know what it was. It wasn't a huge sample for him last year, only 110 games. You were expecting those stats to catch up maybe in the other 50 that he missed, but even then, 110 games isn't a super small sample. He was even hitting the ball in the air more last season. He wasn't pulling the ball as much, which could lead to some better power numbers, but it wasn't a huge step down for him. I think he could gain a little bit of his offensive prowess back if he starts pulling it a bit more. Some of the expected numbers on the pitches are pretty solid. For example, the expected WOBA on the fastball last season for Riley was 376. He got a 329 WOBA on those pitches, so I think he can have a pretty solid season here in 2025, and not a guy that I'm going to worry about at all. I think he'll have a great season. So really the weak spot in this lineup offensively in Orlando Arcia at shortstop, but a guy who's been a great defender up in the majors for a while. His range is very solid at shortstop, brings a lot of value in that area, and he's going to be out there every single day. 157 games for Arcia last season, 28% worse than league average offensively, 4th percentile on offensive run value. A guy who's not going to strike out a ton, although his strikeout numbers did take a bit of a step back last year. He was whiffing a bit more last season, and that really hurt him in a couple areas. A former top prospect of the Milwaukee Brewers, great playoffs in 2018, by the way. Really solid seasons after he came over to Atlanta offensively compared to the rest of his career. Last year, a 741 OPS, 17 homers. Really just a steady step back in all of the metrics from 2023 to 2024. Not anything he was really doing better last season, just a common decline in all of the metrics. He's still a really solid fielder, and it kind of seems like Atlanta is a bit punting this spot offensively, but you can definitely afford to do that with some of the lineup options you have here. He did get a bit better post All-Star last year, a 689 OPS in the second half, but not a guy that I'm going to expect to put up crazy numbers offensively like some of the other guys we're going through here. Jurickson Profar, welcome to Atlanta on a 3-year deal from San Diego last season. 32 years old, had the best season of his career by far last year. A former top prospect of the Texas Rangers, kind of bounced around for a bit, found a home in San Diego, had a tough 2023 and was very good last season. 39% better than league average, 24 homers, 10 stolen bases, 91st percentile in offensive run value. A guy that really isn't going to play much defense at all. 9th percentile in defensive run value, but will be a league average base runner. Big time in the plate discipline areas last year for Jurickson. The K rates and walk rates are both very good for him. Big time stats as a right-handed batter, similar to Ozzie Albies, better as a right-handed batter than a left-handed batter last season. Coming in on a very low money deal to San Diego last season after a really tough 2023 year, was good in 2022, 722 OPS, 15 homers, but all of the metrics were really bad for him in 2023. Everything except for the plate discipline metrics, which is something he's carried over his entire career. He got even better in those and really started crushing the baseball. His barrel rates, hard hit rates, and average exit velocities all skyrocketed. Interestingly enough, he actually hit the ball in the air a lot less last year, but got better results. So if that's something that Profar needs to do to be consistent at the plate, that's probably the player that he's going to be moving forward. But an 839 OPS for Profar, really solid year from him. Atlanta is really going to welcome his bat in left field. Hopefully we see more of the 2024 Jurickson Profar. Michael Harris II, very similar to Austin Riley in the fact that his numbers did not reflect the batted balls that he was giving last year. Only 52nd percentile in offensive run value, just about a league average hitter, but he was really hitting the baseball hard. The expected wOBA over 30 points higher than the actual wOBA he had last season. Another guy that only played 110 games, so the small sample and the injuries might have factored into it a little bit. But Harris is going to be a premium defender in center field. Pretty solid in the sprint speed, but not the greatest base runner. Only 24 years old, a former top prospect in Michael Harris. Didn't play a game in AAA, just came up to the majors and has been good the entire time he's been up. Really good numbers the past 2 years before 2024, an 808 and an 853 OPS. Again, all of the metrics are very similar for Michael Harris. The only things that were different for him, he wasn't squaring the ball up as much as he did in 2023, and the launch angle sweet spot percent was a bit down, but everything else right about on line with that really good 2023 season. Very good second half for Michael Harris, though. 192 plate appearances to an 824 OPS, 11 homers in the second half and only 5 in the entire first half. A guy who historically really hits right-handed pitching well, didn't do it last year. He actually hit lefties better. I think that's an area where he can regain a lot of his positive value as a hitter. A really good defender, and I think a very good player. I'm expecting a good 2025 out of Michael Harris II. So Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back from the torn ACL last season won't be starting on the Major League roster, but will make it back at some point this season. The 2023 National League MVP after he hit 40 homers and stole 70 bases really wasn't getting off to as good of a start in 2024. The biggest thing for Acuña in 2023 is he cut down his strikeout rates by a very big margin. He kind of got back to his average in 2024, and while some of the metrics are incredible on him, still very good at hitting the ball hard. The bat speed is way up there. The expected stats were pretty good. Struck out a bit too much, and in a 49 game sample, I think that caught up to him a decent amount. His wOBA was a lot lower than his expected wOBA, but a fantastic player in Ronald Acuna Jr. Gonna play a decent outfield the majority of the time. Last year was a bit tough and outs above average for him, but 27 years old, a guy that's in the prime of his career right now, should be coming back at some point this season. I want to take a second to talk about how good his 2023 was. A 1.012 OPS, 100th percentile in average exit velocity, expected slugging, expected batting average, and expected wOBA. He was in the 97th percentile in strikeout rate in baseball at 11.4%. So he was really doing everything well across the board. Not a very good season from him defensively that year, but he stole 73 bases, brought it offensively all season. It's kind of been a mixed bag the last 3 years for Acuña. 716 OPS in those 49 games last year, a 764 in a shorter season in 2022 as well. Those 2 years sandwiching the MVP season for Ronald Acuña, but a guy with a career 904 OPS in 7 seasons, so somebody that's been doing it for a long time. Ronald Acuna Jr., when he comes back, I don't know if I expect the MVP numbers from him, but I expect him to be a very good player here in Atlanta. Marcell Ozuna had one of the best offensive seasons out of any player in the game last year. He's really mastered the designated hitter thing here in Atlanta. 34 years old, was 54% better than league average offensively last year, 39 homers. All of the hard hit numbers are off the charts for him. 98th percentile in offensive run value. Crushed both sides of the plate. Will whiff at a pitch here and there. That's really his issue, and the strikeouts aren't very solid for him, but he crushes the baseball. 162 games from Ozuna last year. Almost 3 WAR per 162 the last 3 years at DH. Not giving you really much of anything on the defensive side. But 2 really good years piled on top of each other for Ozuna. A 924 OPS last year and a 904 in 2023 after a really disappointing 2022 season for him. He just made huge strides in almost every area at the plate the past 2 seasons, has really cut that K rate by a decent amount, even though the whiff was down a lot last year, just hitting the ball super hard every time he's making contact. A really good DH in Marcell Ozuna. And then on this bench, Chadwick Tromp will also open the season as the backup catcher. I think Eli White will be on this roster. I'm going to talk about Jarred Kelenic a little bit. He'll start as the right fielder here. A bit of a tough season offensively. Got off to a good start last year. 131 games, 15 homers for him. 25 years old, a guy that was a top prospect with the Mariners and the Mets, really has never got it going in the majors outside of a couple pretty hot stretches for him. I still believe in Jarred Kelenic a little bit. The strikeout stuff is just kind of scary. Doesn't make enough contact and doesn't really get on base. But I think he can be at least a solid holdover until Acuña comes back. Bryan Bryan De La Cruz, really tough year for him last year. Still 21 homers in 149 games, but struck out way too much. Really didn't get on base at all. And then Nick Allen, acquired from the A's this offseason. Didn't do much of anything in the majors for them, but has some pretty solid minor league numbers. A guy that can play a lot of positions in this infield, and definitely a calculated pickup in my opinion by the Braves. Only 26 years old for Nick Allen. We'll get on to the pitching section of this video. We'll get started with Chris Sale, go over some numbers really quick. On the right side are going to be run values again by Baseball Savant. So pitching, fastball, breaking, and off-speed run values. A lot of the same in terms of the Baseball Savant card. The bottom left is going to be pitches, usages, and miles per hour on those pitches. And then on the card, FIP stands for Fielding Independent Pitching. See that as a long-term indicator of what your ERA should be. So for last season, we would have expected Chris Sale's ERA to be closer to 2.09. And then Stuff Plus and Location Plus, two models built by Eno Saris at The Athletic, really measures how good a pitcher is at locating pitches with Location Plus and how good their stuff is with Stuff Plus. League average for both of those is going to be 100. Works the exact same as weighted runs created plus. And we'll get started with Chris Sale here, the National League Cy Young winner. 2.38 ERA last year. The FIP was actually a lot lower. You could see all of the metrics loved him last year. A big time pitcher, 99th percentile in pitching run value. Did an incredible job at limiting hard contact last year. Got a ton of strikeouts. Didn't walk as many guys as he has in years past. The stuff is still there for him. Did a great job at locating his pitches. Gave a lot of innings for this team as well. 29 starts. A pretty tough year for him in Boston in 2023. A 4.30 ERA in 20 starts. Braves acquired him in the offseason and immediately became one of the better pitchers in baseball. Really the only differences he made in terms of his arsenal last year, threw the slider a bit more than the four-seam fastball and used the changeup more as well. Outside of that, a lot of the same stuff for him. The fastball velo in 2024 actually a bit better, 94.7 on the fastball compared to 93.9 in 2023. Just a great pitcher, one of the best pitchers of our time, pretty underrated in our era, and the National League Cy Young winner in 2024. A great one to start off this rotation. Reynaldo Lopez here as the 2 for the Braves. I mentioned a starter turned reliever turned starter, was actually a very good reliever for the White Sox for a bit. Came over to the Braves after a tough 2023. And was incredible. If it wasn't for the 25 starts, he would have been up there in the Cy Young race as well. A 1.99 ERA. The metrics weren't as good on him. His breaking pitches were very good alongside the fastball last year. 97th percentile in pitching run value. Even with the expected numbers being a bit higher, the FIP still at 2.92 would make for a really good pitcher. Not a tough year in terms of results for Reynaldo Lopez in 2023. A 3.27 ERA, but he did give up a lot more hard contact than his very good 2022 season. And walked a lot more batters. In 2024, though, a lot of the same metrics as that 2023 year. The hard hit rates and barrel rates aren't great for him. Will give up some hard contact, but gets a lot of strikeouts. A pretty solid pitcher here, although I don't think many guys in the league are a 1.99 ERA pitcher. Spencer Schwellenbach is one of the most underrated pitchers in the game. 3.35 ERA, the stuff and location both well above league average. A 3.29 FIP last year. He has been in some Cy Young dark horse talks I've been hearing recently, but the numbers are very good for him. The metrics really good. Big time off-speed pitches, that slider and curveball are very solid for him. 72nd percentile in pitching run value. The fastball's lagged a bit behind. But a 24-year-old starter here in Schwellenbach gets incredible chase rates, doesn't really walk anybody, doesn't give up many barrels either. A very good pitcher. Last year was his first run at the major league level, and it went very well for him. 21 starts to that 3.35 ERA. Big time prospect for the Braves coming up through their system. Very good minor league numbers. A great arsenal of pitches. A really solid pitcher here. The only concerns really is the hard hit rates, but he didn't give up many barrels, so that didn't result in a ton of homers. I think Spencer Schwellenbach is going to have an incredible season. The Cy Young Dark Horse talks are definitely a thing that I think he has worked himself into. Love Spencer Schwellenbach as the 3 starter in this rotation. I am a big time Grant Holmes fan. 29 years old, a 3.56 ERA. The FIP a lot better for him. A dude who gets a ton of chases and whiffs on his pitches. A trade acquisition from the Oakland A's. Sorry, Rob Manfred. The A's came over and came out of the bullpen a majority of the year last year. Only 7 starts. The stuff and location for him wasn't great last year, but he just gets so many swings and misses on his pitches. I think Grant Holmes is going to have a pretty solid season here as the 4 starter. A former first-round pick of the Los Angeles Dodgers all the way back in 2014, spent some time in Oakland. The minor league numbers don't really jump off the page. A 4.47 ERA, but came over to the Braves minor league system and really put it together. A 3.54 in 50 relief appearances in 2023, and in 18 games in 2024 in the minors, a 2.63 ERA. He's going to be stretched out to starting innings this year, and I do really like it. A former starter turned reliever turned starter again, just like Reynaldo Lopez. The Braves seem to have a model for these guys that they want to bring into their rotation, and I really like Grant Holmes as one of them. AJ Smith-Schawver, the current number 2 prospect in the Braves system, some really solid metrics in his one start in the majors last year. That stuff plus at 105. Really tough to take anything away from that small of a sample, though I do have his minor league numbers listed on the screen. Honestly, not very good for him in the minors last year, although his strikeout numbers have always been pretty solid. A guy that only used 3 pitches, but one that I am really interested in to see what he can do in this Braves rotation. Only 22 years old. A guy who came up and got a little bit of major league run in 2023, 4.26 ERA and 25.1 innings. Gotten hit around just a little bit in his minor league career. A 4.50 ERA over all of his minor league seasons combined, but a very good 2023 season, a 2.76 ERA in 15 starts. Really struggled when he got up to AAA, but a good start in the majors last year. I am definitely excited for the stuff I see from Smith-Schawver, and I think he could have a good season here. And then Spencer Strider, only 2 starts last year in 2024, missed the entire season. I have his 2023 stats and ranks on the screen right now. I mentioned before, still in spring training, gonna ramp up his process and come back to the Braves at some point in the season. When Strider is back and when he's good, he's gonna be one of the best pitchers in baseball. He hasn't even really gotten the results that we expect to see from him. His strikeout numbers are incredible, great stuff. He locates his pitches, a 2.85 FIP in 2023 and a 3.86 ERA. So a guy that really had some bad batted ball luck that season. The whiff rates and chase rates are just incredible for him. All the expected numbers liked him a lot more. I think Spencer Strider is one of the best pitchers in baseball, 98th percentile in pitching and breaking run value, so that slider is just very good alongside the 4-seam fastball. I think when Strider comes back, you should expect some of the best pitching that you're going to see from a pitcher this year. He's looked great in spring training so far. Pretty solid back end of the bullpen here. Raisel Iglesias, one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball last year, a 1.95 ERA for him. Not going to be a big time strikeout guy, but he will get a lot of balls on the ground, really locates his pitches well, has a nice arsenal of pitches. The metrics really love him. 35 years old for Iglesias. Pierce Johnson, not as good. Definitely a bit of a step back in this department, but the stuff and location plays really well. 28.4% on the strikeout rate, does walk too many batters, and I think that really played into some of the results last year. I think we could be seeing a pretty solid season for Pierce Johnson here. And then Aaron Bummer, the lefty out of this back end of the bullpen, an incredible FIP last year. I think we're going to see a big time positive regression to the mean for Bummer in 2024 with that ERA at 3.58 last year, just so much higher than the FIP. Only 55.1 innings for him last year, so I think that played a lot into it. Reliever, FIP, and ERA is going to be a bit different. You see that with Raisel Iglesias as well, but just incredible stuff. A former reliever of the Chicago White Sox brought over in a trade. The Braves really like this guy. I would expect him to work his way into the 8th inning at some point this season. Dylan Lee, an incredible season from him last year, a 2.11 ERA, a 3 on the FIP, struck out over 30% of the batters that he faced last year, doesn't have a big time walk issue, will give up some hard contact here and there, but Dylan Lee was an incredible lefty last season, did so much for this Braves team. I expect a great season out of him in 2025. Hector Neris, brought over on a free agent deal, a 4.10 ERA, 4.28 FIP for him, was walking too many guys, a real solid track record of being a pretty good pitcher, a 1.71 ERA in 2023 for Hector Neris. A lot of the metrics did take a step back, but the fastball velocity is about the same. I think the Braves can definitely tap into something here with Hector Neris. Daysbel Hernandez, get ready to learn his name because he is a dog. 2.50 ERA, but a 2.11 FIP. Struck out 35% of the batters he faced last year. That slider is just incredible. The walk rate was a bit of an issue, a very small sample though at 18 innings for Daysbel last year. Think he could definitely work his way into some high leverage innings for the Braves this season. Enyel De Los Santos, 64 innings last season for the Chicago White Sox. A really tough year, but before 2024, 2 really good seasons, a 3.29 and a 3.04 ERA. I don't know if it was playing for the White Sox that sucked the life out of him, but just not a very good year for Enyel De Los Santos. And then Jose Suarez, went over him more in my Angels video, so if you want to go back and look at that, it's there, but not a very good good season for him. The FIP was a lot lower than the ERA, but FIP still wasn't very good. A 4.54, big time walk issue for him, and he's not a big time strikeout guy. Will throw a lot of pitches out of that bullpen though, and was really the big time innings guy in that Angels bullpen last season. Traded for Ian Anderson to be a part of this bullpen. That'll get us into the top prospect section of this video. We've already talked about their top 2 prospects in Drake Baldwin and AJ Smith-Schawver. So we're going to go over the next 3 prospects in this Braves system's Caminiti, 18 years old, 55 on the Baseball America grade, got just 3 innings last season in A-ball, but he was the 24th overall pick in the 2024 MLB draft. He was 17 years old on draft day, so not a ton of seasoning for him. He definitely a developmental prospect, but a lot of good signs for him. 70 grade on that fastball, really solid changeup, and he's very good at controlling his pitches. Definitely a long way from the majors, but big time upside for Caminiti. Fun fact, the nephew of Ken Caminiti, former MVP in baseball, Nacho Alvarez Jr. got up to the majors for the Braves a little bit last season, did really struggle when he was up there, but very good minor league numbers across the board. A guy that I've had my eye on for a really long time. Not any jump off the page tools for him. The hit tool is definitely his carrying tool, not big time pop, but he can be an above average defender. More of a third baseman than anything, needs to really have that bat carry himself through the majors though. And last season in Major League Baseball, 3 for 30 in 8 games before he was sent back down to the minors. But I mentioned really good minor league stats for him across his entire career. Filled in a bit for Ozzie Albies at second base last season. Not a big time power bat, not a big time anything, really just a consistent player that's had consistent stats through the minor leagues. And then Hurston Waldrep, the 24th overall pick in the 2023 draft out of Florida, made his major league debut last season, had 2 starts, did struggle a bit, very similar to Nacho Alvarez, but really good stats in the minor leagues last year for Waldrep. 93.1 innings, 3.47 ERA, struck out about 24% of the batters he faced. Big time slider and changeup for Waldrep. Gets a lot of swings and misses, gets a lot of chases on his pitches. The control is definitely an issue for him though. Never been a super consistent strike thrower, an 11.4% career walk rate, and really relies on that splitter. But I think there's a lot of upside for Waldrep. The fact that his slider and changeup are such plus pitches are a really big thing for him. I would expect him to come back up to the majors and make some more starts in 2025. I mentioned a really low ranked hitters group, only 4 infielders in the top 30 prospects here for the Braves. John Heel, though, a pretty solid 18-year-old prospect, number 7 in the Braves organization. By some sites, 12th in the Braves organization by Baseball America. Very solid run tool and a hit tool that's really carried his way through the minor leagues. Definitely a shortstop slash third baseman. I don't think he'll be at shortstop long term. A guy who hasn't put up any crazy numbers in the minor leagues so far, a 688 OPS in 2024. Definitely a better reputation from scouts than his actual numbers in the minor leagues, but I think there's a lot of potential here. There's definitely very good tools. Jose Perdomo, the number 18 prospect for the Atlanta Braves, 18 years old in the DSL last season, had some very solid numbers and a lot of very good tools for Perdomo. 55 on the hit, 55 run, 55 arm, a solid defender at shortstop. I would assume he'll play the position through their minor league system. A very good player, very young, a big time international guy for the Braves. Nick Montgomery hasn't played yet in the minor leagues, a catcher with some pretty solid tools in the power and the arm, but a high draft pick by the Braves last season, coming out of high school, just 19 years old going into 2025. Definitely some hit tool questions for him and isn't the best behind the plate, but I think he can develop into a pretty solid hitter. Needs to work on that contact skill a little bit more, but only 19 years old, just coming out of high school. A lot of hope there for Nick Montgomery. And then David McCabe, a first base slash third base guy, mostly gonna play first base moving forward, if I would assume. Had Tommy John surgery last year and really struggled after he came back. Only 35 games at AA last year, but career in the minor leagues, a 50.2 career walk rate. When he got up to AA, that jumped up to 17%, so I think there's a lot of really good signs there. Hoping for a big season from McCabe in 2025. Very young outfield system here for the Braves, and not a lot of top end talent, but a couple pretty solid pieces here. Diego Torres, the big international signing for the Braves this offseason, has yet to play a game, obviously, in the minor leagues, but just 16 years old and already the 15th ranked prospect here for the Braves. Some really good tools in the power and run, the field, arm, and hit, all at 50 as well. Really excited to see what he can do when he gets into the DSL this summer. Luis Guanipa and Junior Garcia, 2 other 19-year-old international signings. Garcia really impressed in the DSL right when he got up, but got up to low A and did really struggle there. Just a 506 OPS and struck out over 36% of the time. Definitely needs to take a step forward with the hit tool because that really hurt him last season. Very similar for Guanipa. Got to low A last year, a 184, 250, 200 slash line. Only struck out 25%, but that is still pretty high. Walked 8.1% of the time. Definitely a weakness of this farm system is productivity from these outfielders, but this pitching group is just so good. I'm not even going to be able to talk about a quarter of the guys that are ranked in this Braves top 30 system. I would recommend any Braves fan or anybody interested in these Braves pitching prospects at all, just go look at the MLB pipeline rankings. Some of the guys in there are definitely going to contribute to the Braves over the next couple of years. I'll start though here with Owen Murphy, the number 6 prospect in the Braves system. 3+ pitches in the fastball, the slider, and the curveball. Curveball ranked just a 50. I do really like it though. I've seen him throw it before. Got off to a great start in 2024, was really breaking out, and then had Tommy John surgery at the end of the season. We won't be seeing Owen Murphy for a bit of time here now, coming back most likely in 2026, but definitely has the high-end potential. Could be a 2 or 3 starter in a rotation moving forward. J.R. Ritchie, the 35th overall pick in 2022 after the Braves acquired that pick in a trade with the Royals. Also missed parts of 2023 and 2024 coming back from Tommy John surgery, but was great when he came back last season. 49.2 innings across 3 levels, a 2.90 ERA. Big time slider and changeup from Ritchie. Most likely going to get some exposure at the upper levels of the minor leagues this year. Definitely one to watch going forward. Drew Hackenberg, the number 8 prospect in this system. 2nd round pick in the 2023 draft after he was with Virginia Tech for a while. Pitched at 3 levels last year and was awesome. 4 great starts at AAA Gwinnett last season. Ranked 2nd in the Braves system with 144 strikeouts and a 53.9% ground ball rate, so he can really pitch. A very good one in Drew Hackenberg. Lucas Braun, a 6th round pick in 2023, and another guy that's really impressed in the minor leagues. 3.26 ERA last season in 143.2 innings, 162 strikeouts. Those both led all Braves minor league pitchers last year. Should be only in the upper minor leagues this season. Big time pitches in the fastball and the slider. The changeup and curveball could use a bit of development, but a big time control guy, that's really his calling card. I would expect him to make a major league debut either at the end of this season or the start of 2026. And then a reliever here in Roldy Munoz. Wanted to go over him because I think he's going to be in the majors this year. Signed with the Braves in 2019, the twin brother of Roderi Munoz, formerly a Braves pitcher as well. Big time strikeout numbers from Roldy Munoz, but did struggle a bit with the home runs and the ERA. A 4.24 ERA as a reliever in high A and double A last season. His pitches are incredible though. The fastball and the slider both at a 60 and a 70 grade. Just really struggles with that control and can give up home runs here and there. I would expect Roldy Munoz to be up in the majors. He definitely has high leverage stuff, just needs to get that control down, and he could be a very solid reliever. I'll go over a projected 2028 lineup here by Baseball America, and a lot of the same for this Braves team. That's what you really like to see when you're looking into the future. Sean Murphy at catcher, Matt Olson at first base, Ozzie Albies at second, Austin Riley at third. I think we might end up seeing a different shortstop. They do have Orlando Arcia listed there currently, but I think it's getting a little bit loud in terms of the lack of offensive production by Arcia. But if he could continue to be a really solid shortstop, I think they're fine having him there in that lineup. Jared Kelenic, they do have in left field. That's a bit interesting. I would mention the bad outfield in this minor league system. Not that it's bad, it's just not deep. There's definitely not guys ready to come up to the major leagues yet. So Jared Kelenic could definitely have to be a long-term piece for this team. Michael Harris, the second in center field, Ronald Acuna Jr. in right, and Drake Baldwin they have as the DH. So only one guy that doesn't have big-time big league experience already in Drake Baldwin, but this is literally the same exact roster that I went through in this video. No prospects coming up through this system are going to take any of these guys' spots unless some of the infielders really develop quickly and can take that Orlando Arcia spot at shortstop. The Braves go out and get somebody else. or one of the outfielders really starts popping and Jared Kelenic gets replaced. But this is going to be a majority of the team we're seeing moving forward. In terms of the projected 2028 rotation and closer, really solid here, and this is an area where the prospects are really going to come up and help out this organization. Spencer Strider at 29 years old might be the best pitcher in baseball in 2028. Really hoping he can stay healthy and come back after this injury and prove that he's the same guy that he has been in the past. I'm a big fan of Spencer Strider. Spencer Schwellenbach as the number 2 starter here definitely has that upside. I think we're going to see a very good season from him in 2025. AJ Smith-Schawver, got to see some good results out of him for me to say that he can be the long-term 3 starter, but I am pretty excited about some of the metrics and some of the numbers. Caminiti and Owen Murphy. Caminiti very young. Owen Murphy has that injury question mark over him, but definitely a lot of potential in those two guys. Hurston Waldrep they have as the closer long-term. Honestly, I would be a fan of that. Some very good pitches, but I could still see him being a starter. That'll get me into some final thoughts on this Braves organization. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what happened with the lineup last year. It seems like there was just a ton of underperformance compared to the metrics and the expectations, and they still made the playoffs and had a very good season. I think the Braves are going to win this division this year. Understanding that the Phillies and Mets are both very good organizations, they're both going to have good years. I just love this Braves lineup. I don't see a way where every single player in this lineup underperforms expectations again. The rotation's very good. A bit of a question on the bullpen, but I think they can cover that up with a really good lineup. I think the Braves win the division in 2025. This was a very, very fun one to do. Love this team. Thank you guys for watching. This was a deep dive on the 2025 Atlanta Braves organization.